I put this here because my bangs are way too long and you want people to see my beautiful face. So not terribly long ago, I watched one of the weirdest Disney films I have ever seen. Well, the weirdest and the most confusing. And that movie is A Wrinkle in Time. So the movie begins this nice little family in this nice little home. And I think we're supposed to be taken in by the love of this family. But all I got out of it was the father dying? Did they know he was going to disappear? Like, it wasn't just this, oh, the father's showing her this cute little game he made and whatever. It was just so dramatic that you thought this was like World War II and he's about to take his bags and go to war and he may never come back. But no, I guess like a few years later or something he disappears because he was playing with a Tesseract. No, not the Marvel Tesseract. So, you know, we fast forward years, Meg's dad has disappeared. That's too bad. And I guess they had a little boy named Charles Wallace, which is a huge mouthful. And the entire movie, they just call him Charles Wallace, Charles Wallace. Such a mouthful, and it's just the yellow a lot too. Half of this video would be Charles Wallace if I repeated his whole name. So we're just gonna call him Charlie because I just don't have the time. You know, it's been 4 years, and I understand that she is still upset over her father's disappearance, but she is using it, I think, as an excuse to misbehave. Meg, misbehaving. Meg, being unhappy all the time. And then we have Charlie, who is annoying. I think he was supposed to be wise but young, but he was supposed to be like, what, 6 or 8? But he's way too smart, he's way too energetic, he's way too perfect, his hair was too perfect, his clothes were too perfect, and he would just annoy the living daylights out of me. So every time I saw him, I just wanted to cry because I was just out of annoyance because he just wouldn't go away and well, he would be here forever. But one night, Meg and her mom hear Charlie let a lady in. Meg and the mother's really weirded out, and Charlie's like, oh, she's perfect, and she's wonderful, and she's my friend, and look at me, I have perfect hair. This lady's acting really weird, and they finally tell her, leave, you're strange. And she leaves, and she says,
wild nights are my glory.
So, at some point we meet Calvin. Where Calvin comes from, I don't know. He kind of just falls into the story like by accident. I don't know who he is. I guess he goes to Meg's school, but that doesn't mean anything to me or to Meg necessarily. So they go along and Charlie just walks into somebody's house, some random house. Calvin and Meg run in to get him and he introduces them to Mrs. Who.
Mrs. Who? Meet my Meg.
No brother calls their sister my. And he was even like holding her hand. And like, so weird. And she's supposed to be this wisest lady ever, but all she ever does is quote other people, which I don't understand how that makes her wise. She tells Meg something. I don't remember. She's special. Everybody was telling Meg she was special. And she falls asleep because it's exhausting to touch people's faces and tell them they're wonderful. And then they leave. I think a little bit after that, they show up in the backyard. Mrs. Who, Mrs. Witch, and then Mrs. I don't remember her name, but we'll just call her Redhead. So Redhead show up in the backyard to take them somewhere to find Meg's father because they heard a cry in the universe. The red-haired lady's very pessimistic about Meg, which is understandable because Meg is still pouting about something. So they end up someplace. Redhead speaks to color to the flowers. And they go flying looking if the father's there. But they don't actually land and look anywhere. They just kind of go up in the sky and peek around. But then Calvin just falls. And then he died. Wait, no, he didn't die. He didn't die, actually. He ran into the bunch of flowers who caught him. Without really checking anywhere, they decided that, oh, hey, Meg, your father's not here. So we're going to go somewhere else. They're going to go see, what's his face? Mr. Balance. Where I think Redhead has a relationship with Balance, but they don't like labels because they've evolved. And of course, as they run off to go talk to Mr. Balance, Oprah tells Meg she's special. So everybody's telling Meg she's special all the time, but they don't tell her why. They just tell her that she's special because her name is Meg, which is an average name. So they go see Mr. Balance. Mr. Balance gives Meg the pep talk because she can't stand on one foot on a seesaw. So he gives her a good pep talk about how to stand on a seesaw on one leg, and they do it. And they see where he is. He's in, Meg's dad is in the It. It is pure evil, and it is I think Oprah basically tells us it's its fault that we all have any faults. That's why we bully, that's why we cut in front of lines, that's why we don't wash our hands, is because of the it. These theory ladies who didn't need the children at this point suddenly decide, okay, we're gonna bring you home. So this entire trip that we brought you on is worthless. But we're gonna bring you home because we need a plan. Meg is like, no, my dad is closed. I don't care if I still have my 6-year-old brother and you just told me that it is very dangerous. We're gonna just go and jump in like a lunatic. They try to tesseract back to Earth. But no, they don't go back. They go to this planet. And the kids are like, oh my gosh, how do we get here? And they said, the three misses are like, we're so powerful that Meg's will overtook us, and then we went here. Because this was the next step to finding her dad. And just so you know, this planet is super dangerous. Trust no one. Trust nothing that you see. Use your brain. You might have to pass some tests, but trust no one. Trust nothing. Do all that you can to stay safe and warm and healthy. We can only tesseract 3 people. And it's going to be us. So women first, no children. We're going to tesseract ourselves back because Oprah Winfrey has cards to give away. Survival of the fittest, am I right? Before they leave, they're going to be gracious, and they're going to give the children 3 gifts. Just like Sleeping Beauty. And Mrs. Who because she's so weak, she can finally speak for herself now because she's weak and she has no wisdom. So she decides she's going to give them her little glasses, and they will help them see what's actually there or something. I was like, this is actually fairly practical. This is a good gift. Thank you. And then Mrs. Redhead goes,
to you I give the gift of your faults.
Wait, didn't you say that it was responsible for our faults? Do you work for it? Are you it? Then Mrs. Oprah Winfrey, she gives her,
my gift is my command.
Thanks for that. I'll log that away.
They leave. Yeah, whoop, the kids are alone. Things change and Charlie's missing. So Meg and Calvin are alone. And the earth is like trees are coming out of the ground and things are falling and whatever. And they're running and they have to get past this line. It gets Oprah's disembodied voice. I thought she left, but clearly she's still here somehow. Telling them to get over the line. So Calvin and Meg are running, and I guess they know that Charlie's already over the line. I don't know how he did it. He called on Scotty and beamed him over there, and it's just getting worse and it's getting worse. They finally get to the invisible wall. They're gonna get over it, but there's no bridge. They have to figure it out. And then Meg notices that it throws the stuff over there, so we can cross if we get in something and we get thrown over. So she's like, Calvin, do you trust me? And he's like, yeah. I've only known you for 3 minutes, but yeah! They run into this tree trunk that's been hauled out for them perfectly, and they get thrown over, and they land. It's all good, they're all fine. And Calvin tells her how smart she is and how did she figure out that they would get thrown over. And she's like, basic physics. Anybody who would observe things getting thrown over and landing perfectly in one piece would know that that's how you get across. That's nothing to do with physics. She didn't do any math, she just observed. Because their hair is ever so slightly out of place, before they go looking for Charlie, they wash their hair. They stop to wash their hair before looking for the 6-year-old. Because the 6-year-old's missing, but who cares? We gotta wash our hair first. Our hair doesn't look quite right. We need to fix it before we go find him, so we look perfect for the rest of the film. Shouldn't you be looking for him? Shouldn't you be distraught? But no, we gotta wash our hair first. Magically, Charlie appears. Dang it. So they walk along and they get hungry and they stumble upon this perfect town. And it's really weird because all these kids are outside bouncing a ball in perfect time, perfect rhythm. And all the mothers come out and call their kids to dinner all at the same time. And they all go inside. Except one lady who invites Meg and Calvin and Charlie to have a bite. Calvin's like, oh yeah, I'm really hungry. Let's go eat something. I guess it didn't creep him out that all the kids were bouncing the ball at the same time and all the mothers came out and called at the same time. And Calvin's like, oh yeah, surely the food's okay. Nothing's poisoned. Meg's like, nah, we're cool. And then the mother lady gets angry and leaves. Then they stumble upon a beach. And this guy with a really weird looking suit and the sunglasses on, he invites them to have a picnic with him. And Calvin's like, yeah, I'm hungry. Sandwiches. So they start eating sandwiches. except Meg. And Calvin's eating, he's like, oh, this is so amazing. And then Charlie here, who still has perfect hair, by the way, he eats it, and he's like, ugh, tastes like sand. And the guy with this poor suit, he's like, oh, you've passed the test, Charlie. And then he starts reciting multiplication tables. And you're like, okay, he likes his multiplication tables. And then Charlie starts saying it with him. And then the guy in the weird suit takes Charlie and goes off with him. And Meg and Calvin are like, oh no, he's got Charlie. But then they can't get to him, and suddenly we blinked and Charlie's it. Why, we don't know. Why he was more susceptible to it, we don't know. But it overtook him. And they're all in this weird, freakishly clean room, and Charlie's just going on. He's saying, nah, your dad is not my dad. I didn't know. Meg finally realizes that Mrs. Redhead and Mrs. Oprah gifts stink. She decides to use Mrs. Who's gift. She looks around, and it looks kind of like, I don't know, like a physics problem or something. So she jumps around, and she ends up in this room while Charlie is just standing there. I guess he doesn't care. And she gets into this room, and look, it's her dad. I thought, this is a trick by the It. This cannot be her dad. This cannot be this simple. It wasn't hard. They just got here. No, it's her dad, and he's really there. So they cry for a minute. They get out of the room, and they're like, come on, Charlie, let's go home. But no, Charlie's it now. So Charlie starts dragging his dad, Meg, and Calvin to the innerness of the It. And as he's doing this, the dad is like, he's gonna tesseract everybody home except for Charlie, and that he'll come back for Charlie. Except Meg is like, no, you can't leave Charlie behind. He is your son. You can't do that. And he's like, no, I can't lose both of my kids. I'll take you home. I'll come back for Charlie. She's like, no, you're the worst. The dad and Calvin are gone. Charlie's trying to convince Meg to become the It. And she's like, no, I love you, Charlie. I love you, Charlie. And he beats her up. She's fine. Meg says she loves him and that he loved her even when she was a bit of a brat. But oh wait, she deserved to be loved. You loved me at my worst, but that's no credit to you because I deserve to be loved. But hey, he snaps out of it because she says those very moving things. It is out of Charlie. It's all good. The misses show up. All three of them. And I guess Mrs. Who is still weak because she's speaking her own words still. I don't know how they showed up if she's still weak or why she showed up. But anyway, they're going to Tesseract back. Meg Tesseracts them all back because she's a warrior now and she's smart and she's special. And they go back and there's a nice little reunion between the family. Meg forgives her dad for being concerned for both of his kids. So there's a nice little reunion. They live happily ever after. The misses do whatever. When the movie ended, you're just like, well, I guess that was it. There's a whole section you could do on how to fix this movie, but you would just take a giant red pen and just cover the script in red and just say, just rewrite the whole thing. This movie makes no sense. It's so slow. I couldn't read the last page because I fell asleep and I drooled all over it. And it felt like there was no real story. Everybody was telling Meg she was special all the time, but they didn't really say why. I guess bad grades makes for good special people. And Calvin was forced to be the romantic side of the story. I'm not a big fan of romances between like 15-year-olds in movies because they're just gonna break up in 2 years. So all he did was look dreamily into Meg's eyes and say, your hair looks good. Does mine look good? There should have been some real danger. Honestly, I was never worried about anything ever. Even when Charlie was in, I wasn't really worried. There was nothing really to the It. It had no goal, and it felt like it had a consciousness, but it didn't really. It was just out to destroy people. There was nothing to it. It was like, everything was very empty in the movie. The characters aren't interesting, and the characters don't come off as real people, and you're almost not rooting for anybody. You're just rooting for the movie to end. But nobody in this movie had personalities, not really. Mrs. Redhead had the closest thing to personality. She made me laugh a couple of times. Of course, this movie made me laugh a lot of times where I wasn't supposed to laugh. So, I mean, it's got some entertainment value in it, ever so slightly. So I guess maybe we'll give it a 3 out of 10 stars. In the end, they didn't really win because everybody still has their faults. But I guess those are gifts, even though it causes them. Big things are, don't try so hard to be an allegory. Don't let Oprah be Oprah, please. It's not. She sounds like those supposedly inspirational Facebook memes where they say some really cheesy cotton candy thing where it sounds sweet but there's no substance to it, there's nothing real to it. That's all Oprah ever said. And I was not moved. I was just bored and annoyed. So that's it. I hope you like it. See you next time. Bye.
Fear turns to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to violence, and then there's a tipping point.
Hey guys, I'm pretty sure that was plagiarism.